This is a picture of the charge of the Light Brigade, which, as many of you will already know, was a famous military action during the Battle of Balaclava on October 25, 1854, during the Crimean War. It involved a British cavalry unit, the Light Brigade, led by Lord Cardigan. Due to miscommunication and misinterpretation of orders, the Light Brigade charged directly into a heavily defended Russian artillery position. Despite facing devastating casualties, they courageously carried out the order. Major John Semken, here shown in the Netherlands on the left, led A Squadron of the Sherwood Rangers Yeomanry in 1944, and he did not want to repeat the mistakes made in this infamous attack. He had the task of planning the assault on the village of Rauray, which was just under a mile from his current position of St Nicholas's Farm. He first had to cross the open fields which lay out to the front of Rauray before assaulting the defences within the village itself. In our previous videos, we have seen the days leading up to this assault. We have seen the Rangers and their supporting infantry take the nest of Vipers outside Fontenay, deal with the surprise Panzer VI Tiger tank assault, and the taking of the farm where we currently are. What the Allies wanted was the ridge around the town. As this high ground, it's nearly always about high ground in warfare, provided a vantage point to oversee the access roads and area to the left of Caen. It also provided a strong defensive position against potential German counterattacks. Taking Rauray was one of the most defining and least reported moments of the Normandy campaign. But Rauray was also important to the Germans. It was the headquarters and cornerstone of the 12th Hitler-Jürgen Division. The divisional commander was the infamous Kurt Meyer. They also had elements of the 21st Panzer Division. These units were well equipped and heavily fortified, posing a significant obstacle for the Sherwood Rangers. They would not give up this ground easily. As we have said, between St Nicholas's Farm and Rauray was just under a mile of open countryside. The first step of the plan was for the 7th Duke of Wellington Regiment to push forward 500 yards and dig in to provide a base of fire onto the ridge and town. Next, the Durham Light Infantry would take over and pass through DWR's position and be supported by the tanks of the Sherwood Rangers. John Semken split his attack into 3 prongs. On the right was David Render's 5 Troop, and to the left was 2nd Troop. In the centre was John Semken himself, and for this attack he brought together the 3 17-pounder armed Sherman Fireflies, 1 from each troop, into a sort of Praetorian Guard. Behind John was the remaining 3 troops. Once they were in position, John Semken and the rest of A Squadron were to lead the attack with the Durham Light Infantry in support. Let's take a look at the battlefield. This is a view from behind St Nicholas's Farm, and Major John Semken's Shermans can be seen. 1st Platoon of the DWR is also visible. Over to the right is the Shermans of 5 Troop with 2nd Platoon of the DWR. And to the left, amongst the orchards, are Shermans of 2nd Troop with the 3rd Platoon DWR. This is the crossroads and the objective of the DWR, where they will stop and hold. And then the village itself, which is to be taken by the Durham Light Infantry and the Sherwood Rangers. In prep for the attack, the Duke of Wellington's light mortars and the Shermans from the Rangers fired smoke to conceal the initial advance. This was not going to be a dramatic surge forward like the charge of the Light Brigade. Rather, it was going to be a steady advance with plenty of stops for the Shermans to hose the trenches, hedges and dugouts with high explosives and heavy machine gun fire. Shermans could travel fast, up to 30 miles per hour, but in the role of supporting infantry, they proceeded at walking pace. The Sherman troop on the right, centre and left moved out and fired at suspected locations to suppress the enemy rearguard elements who were in place to slow the advance. At 6 p.m, the 7th Duke of Wellington Regiment set out from their positions. The Shermans and infantry advanced together across the open ground cautiously. The fire from the Shermans had the desired effect of suppressing the German defenders. This is what the M4 Sherman was excellent at. Its 75mm main gun fired a high explosive round, perfect for neutralising these prepared defences. Along with the hull and turret mounted machine guns, the Sherwood Yeomanry moved up to the German defences. 2nd Platoon on the right spotted Panther shreks, so the Shermans held back slightly to stay out of range. The infantry then assaulted. In the centre, the weight of the Sherwood's fire pushed back the defenders. 1st Platoon and John Semken's troop rushed the position. On the left, 2nd Troop and 3rd Platoon took the small copse of trees. The Duke of Wellingtons had completed their objective of taking the crossroads and set up a base of fire. The Durham Light Infantry then moved up. It was 7:30 p.m. before they secured the ground and had clear fields of fire up towards the town and ridge. They were now ready for the next phase. Major Semken ordered his troops to spread out and maintain distance between each tank. He intended to move each troop forward a bound at a time. Meanwhile, in Rauray, at the headquarters of the 12th SS Hitler Division, the commanders Mac Wunsha and Kurt Meyer were feeling the pressure of the situation. The 12th SS had been very strong at the start of the D-Day invasion, with 20,000 troops and some of the best equipment. 3 weeks later, they had taken a heavy beating as they faced the main brunt of the British Martlet and Epsom operations. Wunsha had not expected an attack on his headquarters so late in the day. He had infantry dug in around Rauray. He had panzers returning for the fighting around the Texel area, while others were emerging from the maintenance area south of the village. So John Semken headed down the road while the other two troops proceeded on either flank. So the time was 9 p.m. The light was still good, and the panzers finally came forward to take on the tanks of A Squadron. On the right, David Render's 5 troop spotted in the village the glint of metal, and it became clear this was a panzer. 5 troop engaged. The troop hit the panzer a number of times, with David Render himself jumping into the gunner's seat to lay the gun, as it was difficult for his gunner to acquire the target. David Semken had a mantra of shoot, shoot and keep shooting, which worked very effectively on this occasion, as the crew on the Panzer IV abandoned the vehicle. David Render's Sherman engaging the Panzer IV. David Semken started to see more panzers appearing. Wunsche had amassed a force of Panzer IVs, Panthers and Tigers, a formidable force, especially if they were deployed in defensive positions across open country. A sharp-eyed tank commander called George Dring spotted another Panzer IV in the village and ordered his gunner, Harry Hodkin, to fire. Harry engaged the Panzer IV and knocked it out. This is Harry's shot. Soon after this, George Dring spotted a Tiger at a range of 1,000 yards. While Harry traversed the turret to meet this new threat, the Tiger fired its 88mm main gun, which, if it had hit, would have easily defeated the frontal armour of the Sherman. Either due to the sunlight or battle fatigue, the shot missed. So far, the aim of the panzers was proving poor. Harry returned fire and hit the Tiger. It was hit a number of times and the Tiger's crew bailed out. David Semken was very pleased in the performance of the A Company up to this point. The high velocity of the British 17-pounder, mounted in the Sherman with a bit of squeeze in the turret, proved very effective, even against the frontal armour of a Tiger. A Panther then appeared, probably returning from the fighting around Tesselwood. David Semken's troop got a number of shots off. Immobilizing the Panther. The frontal armour of the Panther was very effective due to its thickness and slope, but after a number of strikes the crew bailed out. George String spotted a 2nd Tiger to the northwest of Rauray. It fired and missed, and the fireflies of the troop knocked it out. A squadron pressed on towards the village. A squadron pressed on towards the village. The Shermans continued to fire on the dug-in German infantry with both high explosive rounds and their Browning machine guns. One troop was moved up by Simpkins to assist in clearing the positions around the village itself. Even though the situation was dire for the Germans, they had lost many tanks already, they continued to offer resistance. As light began to fail, George String had yet another encounter, engaging and knocking out a Mark IV to the east of the village. Light was beginning to fail, and the infantry with supporting elements were catching up on the tanks in the forward positions. The Sherwood Rangers did not want to push into the village at this late hour without comprehensive support. The attack on Rauray had gone well for A Squadron, as they had not lost any tanks. Simpkins' plan had worked, and also the benefits of the M4 Sherman have been seen. A few other points on the attack. 1. The German response was uncoordinated. They had powerful units, but these were deployed and brought to action piecemeal. This could have been because the German commanders were not expecting an attack so late in the day. 2. The Sherman's high rate of fire had kept the German tank commanders buttoned up, reducing their situational awareness, which also may have affected the accuracy of their shooting. 3. The Sherman fireflies had been concentrated together in the centre, allowing their high velocity fire to knock out the extremely dangerous Tigers and Panthers. Overall, this was no charge of the Light Brigade. It was a carefully thought out and executed attack, demonstrating how the Allies had learned lessons from the early part of the war. If you enjoyed the video, if you can like and share. Any questions or requests, let me know in the comments. Also, if you want to subscribe, send me a message in the comments and I will be pleased to welcome you to the channel. At the end of this video, there will be links to some of my videos covering earlier action with the Sherwood Rangers. On my next video, we will see if the Germans counterattack, and also what is the next steps for the Sherwood Rangers Yeomanry. Take care.